Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. First of all, a warm welcome to our webinar, Maximizing the Use and Value of Disability Data and Data Partnership for Inclusive Development. On behalf of the organizers, CBM Global Disability Inclusion, International Disability Alliance, the stakeholder group of persons with disabilities to the United Nations, SDGs, University of Pekin, China Disabled Person Federation Center for Information, and Nanjing University. It's a pleasure for me and for all the panelists today to have the opportunity to share more about how persons with disabilities we are engaged in advocating for more disability data. My name is Jose Viera. I'm the Advocacy Director for the International Disability Alliance. And before diving deeply in our topic, I wanted to share some housekeeping announcements that will enable us to have a better experience throughout the webinar. This webinar has international sign interpretation, which is spotlighted, and hopefully all of you have already access to it. Also, we are providing live captioning in English, which you can access to either through the captioning box located in the bottom of the screen, or through the link that is already available in the chat box. And finally, we have Chinese and English interpretation that can be accessed through the globe band located also in the bottom of the screen. So you can click there and choose the correct channel for accessing the interpretation. This webinar will not have PowerPoint presentations or any visual material shown on the screen for accessibility purposes. Only presenters, when speaking, will have their camera on, but we ask everybody else to keep their camera off in order to have full access to the international sign interpretation and the other accessibility resources available for this webinar. We hope and we are inviting everyone to post questions throughout the session using the chat box. Questions will be read out later on when we come to the Q&A session in this webinar. And finally, a gentle reminder for all the speakers that 6 minutes is the time allocated for each presentation in order to have sufficient time for discussion and closing remarks by all of you. Once again, welcome to the webinar, Maximizing the Use and Value of Disability Data Partnership for Inclusive Development. On behalf of the organizers, we first want to acknowledge the World Data Forum organized by colleagues from the United Nations and the space given to this very important topic. As a way of introduction, I would only like to highlight that the journey that we have gone through so far regarding disability data has been not only a great experience in terms of promoting the right of person with disabilities and the right to data, if we want to call it that way, but especially this journey has been extremely useful because we have, I think, all learned that in order to advance the agenda around disability data, partnerships are key. We cannot do what we are doing regarding disability data without having the great support from universities, from academia, from major international NGOs working in the field of disability and development, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the fact that we are together today discussing around data and disability is an example of what I was just saying. However, as I always like to say, there is still a lot to be done, and we are really far from reaching what we agreed regarding person with disabilities and data when we were thinking about the Sustainable Development Goals. And maybe the best example of saying how far or demonstrating how far we are from reaching the ideal scenario is the fact that out of the 10 global indicators for development that included the need for disaggregated data for persons with disabilities, only two out of 10 are actually collecting information and data around persons with disabilities. So we can certainly say that 10 was already very little. And in that very minimum number, only 20% indicators are actually collecting data around persons with disabilities. However, besides always asking for more, we come to the table with ideas, with proposals. So I would quickly, just in order to set the scene, share with you four of what we believe as a disability community can be good examples moving forward in regards to collecting data with for and with person with disabilities. The first element to highlight is consultation. We cannot think of advancing the disability agenda, and in particular the data agenda for persons with disabilities, if we don't consult with organization of persons with disabilities, if we don't put organization of persons with disabilities in the center. The second element is that organization of persons with disabilities already collect an enormous amount of information. And from the disability community, we are convinced that citizen-generated data is a fantastic tool that should be more formalized and incorporated in many different spaces around data, because the amount of information that organizations of persons with disabilities are collecting, it's something that we cannot miss. So the opportunity that the data agenda has by including this citizen-generated data through organization of persons with disabilities cannot be missed. The third element is, as I said at the beginning, and it's included in the title of this webinar, partnership. Without partners and with the risk of leaving many key partners outside my list from the stakeholder group of persons with disabilities and from the International Disability Alliance, our closest partner working in this field is CBM Global Disability Inclusion under the leadership of Dr. Elizabeth Lockwood. And many others. I see Sophie on this call, and one of the member of the International Disability Alliance, the colleagues from Kenya, etc., etc. But I think that this journey together with partners, CBM Global International, CBM Global Disability Inclusion, and many others is a good example of how partnership can be more effective. And the fact that as a result of that partnership between IDA, the stakeholder group of persons with disabilities, and CBM Global, we are now in a position to say that we have a disability data toolkit that has been transformed in a fantastic initiative that includes training, includes workshops, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a good example of how partnership can be effective if they are well set up and in a consultative manner. And the last ingredient that I would say is capacity building. We know that organization of persons with disabilities needs to develop. We need to develop our skills in order to be more effective, in order to collect, analyze, and push for more data regarding persons with disabilities. But for that, we need a further investment in organization of persons with disabilities. Financially, technical assistance, partnership, transferring knowledge, and making sure that what we are delivering is in line with the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities standards and useful for the disability agenda. Colleagues, this was just a very general overview of where we are and what we want to achieve. But the most interesting part of this conversation will come from our distinguished guests, distinguished panelists. So with no further ado, let me introduce Sally Duta, the Chief Executive Officer of United Disabled Persons of Kenya, who will be sharing a concrete example about partnership on data and person with disabilities, and how that partnership is already giving us concrete results for advancing the agenda in Kenya. Sally, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jose. Good morning, all. Good evening, wherever you may be. In Kenya, we have adopted a partnership approach on data. And as OPDs, we normally conduct advocacy on disability data. And there are a few key things we've learned from our process so far. So I'm going to share with you some 7 points. One, and this might be an obvious one, data advocacy is a journey. Effecting systemic change is a process. For instance, for us in Kenya, it took us over 2 years to have the Washington Group of Short Questions module included in the national census. That journey has taught us that there are false starts, there are challenges, but we must press on. The second one is that because of that need to have a long-term perspective in data advocacy, we must strengthen technical capacities of persons with disabilities and OPDs so that they can engage meaningfully in data processes at all levels. You've also mentioned it, Jose. Now we are talking about citizen-generated data as a way of contributing to official statistics, and there's need to empower OPDs so that they can be able to contribute their data to government. Then 3, there's need to invest financially in OPDs. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to investing in OPDs, but we must invest in OPDs for them to monitor implementation of government commitments on data on persons with disabilities. For example, here in Kenya, our government has made commitments to implement the principles of the Inclusive Data Charter. And also, it made various commitments on collecting data and using data on persons with disabilities. And only OPDs and other stakeholders really can implement and put government to account on the commitments that they've made. Through our work, we've learned that collaborations and partnerships on data analysis are very important, so that beyond collecting data on persons with disabilities, we are interpreting what the data is telling us about the situation of persons with disabilities. And with that collaboration, we are very keen on ensuring that OPDs are strengthened so that they are able to do data analysis. We have also seen the need to pursue formal partnerships and collaborations between different stakeholders, including OPDs, for collecting and using sector-specific data on situations of persons with disabilities. For example, in health, in water and sanitation, in labor markets, in education, among others. We're also learning that beyond the use of the Washington Group short module, we have a lot of work in advocating for collection of data and information, particularly during population surveys that our government conducts, so that they're able to bring out barriers that persons with disabilities face in participation and the support they need, so that they're able to participate effectively in development and in all aspects of society. So the aspects around barriers to participation are not covered by the Washington module. And lastly, in order to support data dialogues, we must also continuously sensitize different stakeholders on the UNCRPD and other legislations. Sometimes we make assumptions that we have good legislations here in Kenya and the government is aware. But throughout our 5-year journey, we've learned that there is need to continuously sensitize on these principles of equality, of inclusion, so that persons with disabilities are counted, so that information and data about persons with disabilities is collected and is used for decision making. That's our experience so far in Kenya. Thank you so much. I'm happy to participate in the discussion. Back to you, Jose.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for bringing a concrete example of how partnerships, capacity building, and working around a joint advocacy objective is possible, and the results, the concrete impact of the work. Thank you, Sally, for your presentation. Next, we have our distinguished panelist, and I'm sure I will mispronounce your name, and apologies in advance. Linjiang Dai, Deputy Director of China Disabled People Federation Information Center. And Dai will introduce us to how big data can help organizations like the Federation in planning for services for persons with disabilities. Welcome and to the panel, and the floor is yours. I would like just the logistic team give me a confirmation that we can hear our presenter. I cannot.
Yeah, there's like a super far away noise, but we cannot hear anything else.
Thank you. So if our presenter Dai can try to fix the technical issue, otherwise we can come back later on.
I think that would be good because we cannot reach anything.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. So can I invite now our third speaker, Nata and apologies, but if Elizabeth Lockwood can help me here introducing my third speaker, that would be really appreciated. I'm just facing a little technical issue also here.
Yes, absolutely. Apologies for this. I'd like to introduce Nada Jafar. She is Head of Statistical Policies and Coordination Unit at United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCWA, and she will present good practices of multi-stakeholder partnerships to strengthen disability data in the ESCWA region. Nada, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Jose, and welcome all participants to this important session. My presentation will be on expanding coverage of data on disability. As you know, global awareness of disability inclusive development is increasing, and as a result, demand for disability data and information on the well-being of persons with disabilities have been on the increase as well. The United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, promotes the full integration of persons with disabilities in society. It specifically references the importance of international development in addressing the rights of persons with disabilities. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development clearly states that the disability cannot be a reason or criteria for lack of access to development programming and the realization of human rights. Both the 2030 Agenda and CRPD stress the importance of data for designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating more disability inclusive policies. The Sustainable Development Goals framework includes 7 targets that explicitly refer to persons with disabilities and 6 further targets on persons in vulnerable situations, which include persons with disabilities. ESQA also developed a framework on disability indicators. 115 indicators were developed or produced in a framework to bridge the gap between policy and statistics. It is a 3-dimensional disability framework that maps disability-related indicators to 3 major development frameworks: the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the CRPD, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All the 115 indicators are based on collecting data from household surveys and censuses implemented by national statistical offices using the Washington Group questions on functioning to produce standard indicators, mainly the prevalence of disability in different policy areas. In the Arab region, 19 out of 20 member states have been collecting data from various surveys using the Washington Group questions, labor force survey, health survey, violence against survey, all types of surveys and censuses. Lately, there has been a large demand for further information on the well-being on persons with disabilities and increasing involvement of major and various stakeholders other than the national statistical offices in the region. So ESQA has been also working with the member countries in consultation with the NSOs, NGOs, and other international organizations. And in partnership with them, we have been developing a standalone survey to collect detailed information on the well-being of persons with disabilities, and also providing technical services to countries in exploring various sources of data and information, including enhancing data analysis. With regard to countries' own initiatives, research institutes like KISR and the Council of Persons with Disabilities in Jordan also exploring to collect more information on the well-being of people with disabilities, their access to services and facilities, including obstacles they face and attitudes and behaviors that may impact their participation in daily life activities. The absence of attention to the issue of violence against women with disabilities prompted the National Council for Women in Egypt to implement the 2020 Violence Against Women with Disability Survey based on registered women who have experienced violence. Information confirmed that while all women may be subjected to forms of violence, those with disabilities face particular risks. NGO studies show that more than 60% of Syrian refugees' households include a person with disability, and 1 in 5 of refugees in Lebanon and Jordan have a disability. The information is used to encourage those actors to adapt the ways they conduct their humanitarian programs by including the needs of people with disabilities. It is therefore vital to explore data from various stakeholders. Different data sources serve different purposes, and each stakeholder will have a vital role in producing important and unique information that would help complete the picture and improve the well-being of persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Naida. Thank you for your presentation, and even more importantly for bringing the perspective around how different stakeholders can contribute to this work, and also the tools available and how people can access the tools and use the tools. I think a key component of advancing this agenda is not only to know what the tools are and how they can be used, but also the role of different stakeholders. So thank you for bringing that perspective. I would like to try once more with our second speaker, Dai from China Disabled People Federation Information Center, to see if we can hear Dai well. Can we try, please? Dai, go ahead.
能听见吗？你好，能听见吗？能听见
Can you
吗？
hear me? It sounds very remote. Ladies and gentlemen, great to see you all here virtually. My topic is we are using the big data from the Federation to offer precise services. China has 18.5 million people with disabilities. So we are setting a high targets to solve all the questions faced by the people with disabilities. It seems to me that his collection is lost. Sorry, the collection is lost. The signal is lost.
Okay. Perfect. No problem. Apologies for the technical inconveniences that we are facing. We are going to fix it soon. Can I just get a confirmation from the logistic team that my voice is going through properly?
Yes, all good. Thank you.
Perfect.
Jose.
Thank you very much, Gina. And I guess these are the nice challenges of having webinars. Webinars or hybrid events like this allow us to have experts from around the world. And I guess this technical challenge will be fixed soon. So let me invite our next speaker, Gon Chen, Director of the Institute for Population Research from the University of Pekin. I think when planning this webinar, we try to have a balance between representative from the disability community and also from the academia and other sectors. So we hope to hear in the next couple of minutes how academia, how universities are contributing to data, to the data agenda, and ensuring that person with disabilities in the center. So a quick revision of what has been achieved over the last couple of decades and how data is useful for this particular topic of population. Welcome to the panel, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for your kind words. It's my great pleasure to be invited to attend this data forum. It is highly relevant and essential for me to say a few words. Now we are talking about the data governance and data partnership. I know that the role played by the statisticians is also critical. We want to find a better way to collect good data. That is a starting point for us to discuss this topic. I'm a researcher. I'm from the Peking University, and I want to help you, and I want to let you know what we are doing here within the Institute of Population Research of the university to offer recommendations and advices to the competent authorities in China. As known by us all, China has altogether 85 million people with disabilities. At present, we are collecting data from various sectors. We have data from the individuals, from the NGOs, from the governments, as well as from the communities. So from my personal view, I want to share with you how we are standardizing the data. Without the standardization of data, we cannot use it properly. We want to use the data and use it to make national strategies. Mostly, China is using national strategy to grow the economy and to provide services to the people with disabilities. From that point on, we have to rely very much on the official data before we can make a great move. The mainstream data or the core data is from the government agencies. That's how we're going to make strategies. I'm from Peking University, and I'm also responsible for the collection of the data. And we are providing monitoring survey for the entire nation. Mostly, we want to collect better data to provide policy recommendations. That is how we are working with the government. We are also doing the awareness promotion projects to let the entire society to understand the importance of helping those people in need. We should never forget the important role played by the people with disabilities. We can never leave them behind. It is part of the social welfare programs in China, and the people with disabilities can also be great consumers and buyers. To be more specific, in the era of big data and AI applications, the people with disabilities are highly innovative. They can do a lot of things, but we should know what they really want and need. We need to do the survey and analysis to start off. Years ago, the statistics in China were well developed, but we have to admit, we have new strategies in the modernization drive of China. China is still in the process of studying the data and to launch an inclusive program to monitor, to collect, and to analyze the outcome. The current Chinese strategy includes making a strategy in the beginning. In the process of, in the next 5 years or 10 years, we also want to create more benefits to the people with disabilities. China now launches a Digital China program, as well as the program to revitalize the villages. I know that we should never take the people with disabilities away. Generally speaking, the development and inclusion of the people with disabilities is a natural part of the national strategy, both at the economic side as well as the social welfare side. As a result, we have to take in account the importance of the social economic changes as well as what is the role the people with disabilities should play. In the long run, we should improve the legislation of the people with disabilities law. With a good law in place, we could make better strategies for them, better mechanisms for them. That is the first thing. The second is about the standards of collecting data. China is a vast country. We have to collect country following certain standards in China before we can benchmarking standards with international communities. The third is we have to open the data, ensure the transparency, and ensure the monitoring in a continuous approach. The next is
so this should go hand in hand with the national health project, national poverty alleviation project, national capacity building project, the national science and technology innovation project. So the development of the China disability statistics system should be going hand in hand with it so as to improve the potential of the people with disabilities and provide a better life quality for them. So at present, our focus of the statistic analysis of the disability in China has focused on the analysis of the current data, and also we are trying to find better ways to provide benefits through the targeted analysis of the situation faced by the people with disabilities and provide them with support to join the journey of pursuing common prosperity, and also provide them with better support, especially in the process of aging trend. We do hope that we can get support from UN as well as IDA and many other stakeholders and partners. We do hope that we can work together to push forward to improve the collection analysis under management and the sharing and utilization of the data of people with disabilities so as we can contribute more to the data advocacy and data governance for those people with disabilities. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share my perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Indeed, the fact that we continue seeing examples of how data is being collected and the use of data. When we interact or when we work with different stakeholders and especially when we develop programs and projects with governments and UN agencies and international stakeholders, one, if not the first question that we are always asked is, what is the benefit? Why do we have to collect data? Why is always better to collect data for persons with disabilities? And I think what we have just heard is a good example of how data can allow us to better plan, design, implement, and monitor different programs and projects, whatever the program or project is about. It can be from health to education, from population growth to sustainable development. But the fact that we are incorporating the perspective of person with disabilities, not only because of the size of the population of person with disabilities in any country, but also for the good way of the contributions that person with disabilities we are ready to make in any aspect of life. Let me for the third time, and thanking in advance Sam for jumping in and help us in delivering the speech from Mr. Dai. So Mr. Sam, the floor is yours, and thank you.
好的，我来替戴主任汇报一下相关。
So I will deliver the speech on behalf of Mr. Dai. Due to the technical issues, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
Go ahead, please.
So on behalf of Mr. Dai, I would like to make the presentation. So the topic is the accurate service based on the data of disabled people with disabilities. In China, we have 85 million people with disabilities. To solve the problem, we have to know who are they, where do they live, what is the living condition, and what are their needs. The better understanding of their situation will help us to provide better care and support for them. So China pays high attention to the cause of development of people with disabilities. We pay special care for them. And we also have made a lot of efforts to guarantee their equal rights, improve their livelihood, enhance their development, and also promote high quality development to provide them with better support in order to better tap into the role of big data in supporting their life. Since 2015, we began to build the data of people with disabilities. And we launched a nationwide real name survey of people with disabilities and organized the personnel to visit villages and households every year to learn about their needs. By 2023, we have collected big data on the basic living conditions and needs of more than 37 million of people with disabilities. Through annual nationwide survey on the basic conditions of people with disabilities, we have gained a comprehensive understanding of their basic needs, their condition in terms of housing, education, employment, basic medical care, rehabilitation, as well as their engagement in cultural and sports activities. So this promoted the connection between the needs of the people with disability and the public services, and also expanded our service channel for them and improved the diversity and convenience of services provided for them. At the same time, China Disabled People's Federation carried out annual statistical work on covering their conditions in rehabilitation, education, employment, social security, culture, sports, and interest in right protection. We also have published the statistic report on the development situation of people with disability. The annual statistic data provide reference and data support for policy makings and decision makings at government level. In addition, the China Federation for People with Disabilities has shared and compared information with various ministries and commissions, sharing identity information of persons with disabilities and offer them with minimal living allowances, and also information about subsidy offered to them, and college admission information, endowment, insurance information for both people with disabilities in urban and rural areas. In recent years, we have actually analyzed the basic status survey data on their career development about their living conditions, and we have done correlation analysis of all the data collected. And so far, 13.56 million persons with disabilities have been covered by the database we have established. And the National People's Congress Data Index System covers 23 overall indicators, 34 individual indicators, and service resource indicators in 9 categories, including social security, education, employment, rehabilitation, cultural, sports, barrier-free development for women and children with disabilities, as well as their resource. Relying on basic geographic information technology, a comprehensive application platform for the data of people with disabilities has been established to visually display the data indicator, so we can offer them targeted services and understand their needs in a more accurate way. And this also helps us to provide more support and more scientific policy makings for them. And also this will also help us to gain a deeper understanding of their needs, their living conditions, and also connect with relevant stakeholders to offer them more targeted support. So now we are not only providing passive care, but also providing active care and support to them. So this will help the people with disabilities to better engage in social and economic development activities. We would like to share with you our experience of building this database. Thank you very much. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Mr. Sam, for reminding us of the role that organization of persons with disabilities like the Federation can play. And for also highlighting with a concrete example something that I said at the beginning, which is the different source of information that we can use for planning and designing programs around persons with disabilities and for the whole society. If there is something that the disability data agenda has shown us clearly, is how key innovation is in terms of funding information regarding how the analysis can be done, etc., etc. So your example is a good way of showing the role that everybody has to play and is welcome to play in this agenda. Next, we have our colleague Sophie Mitra joining from the United States. So Sophie, thank you very much for staying so late and available to join the webinar. Professor Mitra is a professor of economics and director of the Disability and Data Consortium from Fordham University. But even more important, Professor Mitra is also an advocate for the cause of persons with disabilities and data. So, Sophie, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jose. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this session. So we have heard earlier about disability data gaps and how to fill them using multi-stakeholder partnerships. And we heard about the progress made by some countries and some regions in meeting the disability data gap. However, still to date, national statistics are rarely disaggregated by disability status. Often the little data we find on disability focuses on disability prevalence when we look at census or survey reports. This has contributed to persons with disabilities being often invisible in human rights and development policy debates. The Disability Data Initiative, or DDI, aims to contribute to close the disability gap by making internationally comparable statistics on disability publicly available and accessible. We aim to inform debates and facilitate policy studies and advocacy for the rights of persons with disabilities and groups at the intersection of multiple identities, such as women with disabilities or older persons with disabilities. So the link, the web link is in the chat box. So who are we? We are a team of researchers based in East Asia and the Pacific, Europe, Latin America and the Caribbean, North America, South Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. We have a steering committee with various stakeholders, including international organizations, policymakers, advocates, and researchers. And we mainly do two things. First, we regularly provide systematic analysis of the questions on disability in national censuses and household surveys globally. We assess if data sets have questions that meet international standards of comparability. These are the United Nations principles and recommendations for censuses, according to which there needs to be questions about functional difficulties in at least 4 core domains: seeing, hearing, walking, cognition, and they may follow the exact Washington Group short set of questions. So we have found that 1 in 5 of the data sets we reviewed have internationally comparable functional difficulty questions. About 1/3 of the countries we reviewed still do not seem to have such questions in their national household surveys and censuses. That means that they may lack data that is necessary to monitor the Sustainable Development Goals for persons with disabilities and to implement Article 31 of the CRPD, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which requires that state bodies, quote, collect appropriate information, including statistical and research data, end of quote. The second thing we do is that we take advantage of the increasing availability of internationally comparable disability questions in censuses and survey data to disaggregate indicators by disability status. So far, our focus has been on producing proof of concept reports to demonstrate that disaggregating statistics by disability status is possible using national surveys and censuses. The 2021 report showed that disability disaggregation is possible using a variety of surveys and censuses for 41 countries. In the 2022 report, disability disaggregation was focused on a subgroup, women, using data from the Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey of UNICEF for 35 countries. The 2023 report, which will be released in June, is a proof of concept that disability disaggregation is possible at the subnational level, using demographic and health survey data and census data. So we zoom in and produce disability disaggregated indicators at the regional level with DHS data and at the regional and district levels using census data. This offers new opportunities for monitoring the situation of persons with disabilities locally. So some of the results are not going to surprise you. We have found significant inequalities for adults with disabilities in terms of education, work, multidimensional poverty, and subjective well-being. Overall, the results show that policy work is very much needed to curb these inequalities and realize the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. But more immediately, The results show that disaggregating development indicators by disability status using nationally and subnationally representative survey or census data is doable. We need more national and subnational data sets that regularly collect data on functional difficulties. We also need more usage of existing data sets with such questions to produce disability disaggregated data. There are currently lots of opportunities in the disability field for data analysts to support and inform policy and advocacy, including in big data. So this is critical for policymakers to be able to monitor the situation of persons with disabilities and develop evidence-based policies. So you can follow us on Twitter at _D_initiative or email us at rcd@fordham.edu if you'd like to get updates on our work. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Mitra. Thanks for the work that you are doing from the university and for leading this consortium in a consultative manner. If I'm not mistaken, the first time we got in touch was specifically about that, how a university initiative should consult with organization of persons with disabilities, and that's how Professor Mitra and I first met. So great example, already with concrete results. But I would say that for us it's equally important the how and the way that you are dealing with the consortium and consulting with persons with disabilities and their representative organizations is key. Our last speakers is Professor Lim from Nanjing University. He sends his regrets for not being able to join us, but we will rely on Mr. Sam to deliver his presentation. So on behalf of Professor Lim, I would like to welcome back Mr. Sam for the final presentation. But before I do that, please, a gentle reminder to all the participants to post questions on the chat box, as after we hear from our last presenter, we would have good 20 or 15 minutes for interactive discussion and closing remarks by all panelists. So Mr. Sam, over to you again.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. On behalf of Mr. Ling, I would like to share with you on the topic of the role of data exchange and sharing in promoting the integrated development of persons with disability and how it can contribute to the common prosperity of all persons with disability and ensure their full inclusion in the Sustainable Development Goals. In the past few years, adverse impact of COVID-19 pandemic has amplified the global inequality and increased level of exclusion of persons with disabilities. As countries around the world pay more attention to disability statistics, the disability statistics systems are gradually being established, and data have become more and more diversified. Some countries and regions have gained good experience. China in particular has gained effective experience in using data to promote people with disabilities with battle against the poverty, as well as the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have gained some experience. First, data exchange and sharing has helped people with disability in China to achieve the poverty reduction goal set by the UN 10 years ahead of the schedule, laying a solid foundation for their full inclusion and the realization of Sustainable Development Goals. In the process of building a moderately prosperous society, the Chinese government has made it clear that no one with disability should be left behind. This is our commitment. A well-off society without the disability people involved is not a well-off society in a real sense. The exchange and sharing of the data of China Disabled Person Federation, National People's Congress, with data from various government departments has provided favorable conditions for more than 85 million disabled people in China. And this is also very important. And this also paved the way for disabled people to join the well-off society development. And this success also reflects China's institutional advantage. China's efforts to deliver comprehensive well-of life and achieve targeted poverty alleviation involve food, clothing, education, housing, medical care, and other aspects. They're in line with the Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN. And also we provide China's solution for the global progress of sustainable development. And second, the common prosperity that China is pursuing is the common prosperity for all people, both at material and spiritual level. Both are equally important and cannot be achieved without losing one another. The Chinese government has pledged that no one should be left behind on the road for common prosperity. And compared to targeted alleviation, the poverty alleviation covers a wider range of area and a group of people. So this should ensure that the needs and services for the people with disability should be fully integrated into the process of common prosperity and the poverty alleviation, and also help achieve the UN Sustainable Goal at a higher level. We are formulating an action program to promote common prosperity. Statistic monitoring, assessment, evolution of common prosperity will create a greater and broader demand for exchange and sharing of data on people with disability. With the acceleration of digital China, data exchange sharing will play a bigger role in integrated development of persons with disability. The Chinese government is setting up a national data bureau to coordinate the integration, sharing, development, and the utilization of data resources. This will also create favorable conditions for data exchange and sharing for people with disabilities. And disability statistic standards will become more consistent among departments. Disability statistic data will also be continuously enriched and improved. At present, the world not only solve the disability data gap, but also we need to pay more attention to the consistency of the statistic standards. With the development of global digitalization, the problem of data gap will continue to be eased and narrowed. But how to identify a person with disability and ensure the comparability of standards domestically and internationally, this is a real problem that need to be addressed urgently. Only by addressing this issue can we can we achieve the integrated development of persons with disability, and can they be compared internationally and be included in the Sustainable Development Goals. So I suggest that we should strengthen international exchanges and cooperation on disability statistic standards and regularly organize academic conferences like this one so that we can discuss the problem and also share the successful experience and improve the inclusion of the disability people in our pursuit for sustainable development and common prosperity. That's it. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sam, on behalf of Professor Lim. Distinguished panelists and participants, time has fly, and we only have 2 minutes left, and we want to be respectful of everybody's schedule. So I would like to propose that instead of having an interactive dialogue now, we can share some of the questions with the speakers and probably get some answers from them and share it with the organizers and explore a way in which participants can access to the knowledge that our distinguished speakers can share. In closing, I think we have heard in this 60-minute session the importance of collecting data for persons with disabilities and the role that different stakeholders can play, and we should play in this agenda. We really hope that once you walk away from this session, you take with you concrete tools, but even more importantly, people that you know are working in this field, and so you can connect with them using the existing resources put in place by the organizers to connect with them, to keep the discussion. Again, on behalf of all the organizers, I really want to thank everybody for joining, and I hope you have found this session useful. A big thanks to the logistics teams that have managed to put this session in place in multiple languages and fully accessible. My colleague, Dr. Elizabeth Lockwood, who has led the organization of this workshop, and we hope to be in touch again soon. Have a wonderful rest of the forum, and even more productive days when it comes to persons with disabilities and data. Thank you.